That's how Mark's feeling today. It's Wrestle Me.
Wrestle Me. Look, we have got some exciting news for you. We
Yes.
have, at this podcast, we have come to the initial stages of a deal with the Rose West murderess. We're looking
She started
forward
a charity,
to a partnership.
and she's got a book coming out,
Yeah.
and she needs someone to advertise it,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
are only too happy to take that beautiful 70s money she found in an old suitcase under her bed.
We think that Rose West's, if you like, long history of women murder and theft
Yes.
and deceit is exactly the corporate partnership that we need to take WrestleMe to the next level. What a
Piece of shit.
Oh, Pete. Do you know what? I did some notes yesterday. So we're recording this. It's the day that the reports have come out that the WWE looks to have been purchased by the Saudi Arabian PIF.
The PIF, the Saudi investment fund.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the PIF stands for. I mean, I've written it down a million times, and I can never remember what it is. Very innocuous sounding, very friendly when you say it out. They are the arm of the Saudi government who buy stuff, and then they get to do it and kind of go, see, we're not all bad.
We're not all bad. We own quite a lot of Twitter, inexplicably.
Yeah.
We own my Newcastle United football team that I've been supporting since I was a weean.
I have had a long, period of seeing this happen where football clubs are bought by unpopular regimes stroke firms. And until now, I've never known why that's so painful. And suddenly you have this thing of a company that has been, one thing for the entirety of its existence, has suddenly jumped into bed with a terrifying regime. It's absolutely worth pointing out that the previous regime was also problematic. But what it looked like...
Not to the form of a state, you know what I mean? Not to like the scale of an entire state.
And also knowing that your money, when you purchase your tickets and you buy your DVDs, is going to be going to a murderous regime, a totalitarian regime, a regime that doesn't like gay people. I say doesn't like, that's mild. I mean...
It's literally illegal. And also, there are very few instances when Vince McMahon has ever... perpetrated a war in Yemen.
Yes,
like there's very few kind of
I mean,
killing innocents in Yemen.
Had he been given the chance, I think he probably would have. It's a terrifying sea change, really. I should think that. I mean, this is going to happen, isn't it? This is going to happen.
It's going to happen, and it's going to happen repeatedly until all of the oil runs out.
Yep.
And I think. Certainly, from my perspective as a Newcastle United supporter, I feel very much, I'm a fan of the WWE as well, and I feel like it's just another part of my life has been stolen.
Yeah,
and I think that wrestling is regarded as being quite grubby, and I don't think there'll be that much of a fuss sort of kicked up because at the end of the day, it's just showbiz, baby.
Absolutely,
and it doesn't have the purity of a real sport, but it's just another little shuffle towards hell.
And look, Vince McMahon, looking at the things that he'd done in this 6-month period where he'd been off, the board had reinvestigated all of these payments that he'd made for inappropriate sexual relations with employees and also people who he'd basically met out in public once and then he'd been problematic with. There was... there's some amazing things that have come out in their filings. For example, he donated nearly $10 million to Trump's charities. So he's always been at a level of working with the political people who are, if you like, bad people. The amazing thing is, as a shitty person, he has managed to do the shittiest thing with the shittiest backers that you could possibly do.
But now this is the Premier League of shitty backers.
Yeah, it really is. And, I mean, the worst thing about this, to some degree as well, is we saw when he was put down for those 6 months, we saw a new WWE where Triple H had taken over, running it with Stephanie McMahon, and the two of them had delivered a different product. It was a positive, proactive, reactive to the fans product where the wrestlers were clearly happy, being treated well, the storylines were improving, the ratings were up, and that 6-month period is going to seem like they gave us the worst intro to this by giving us the best of what WWE could be.
What it could be, yeah. And basically, Vince is basically saying, look, your modern liberal New York politics can't handle what I do with my little winky dinky.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to go to a place where men can do whatever they want with their winky dinky, as long as it doesn't go near another man's bum.
Yes. Now, the weird thing about this, I think, is we don't have very much information about this.
It's literally dropped like about 7 hours ago.
Yeah.
At US time.
It's exactly that. And what they've basically said is this hasn't been confirmed, but at the same time, it's not been denied. So it does seem, for probably a year and a half now, the WWE have been building up for a sale. This coincided with the installation of Nick Khan as the CEO. So from the moment he was brought in, he was famous for brokering these huge media sales deals.
Yeah.
So from the moment he was there, I think this has been rumbling. And obviously there's been different people in the frame. There's been Comcast NBC, who are people who run Peacock, which is the WWE's streaming service in the US. There's been all sorts of Disney Plus, for example. Netflix, they were saying, you know, Netflix is very keen to get into the live sports business, or certainly the live business. So they would have been a potential buyer. But nobody has the same money as the Saudis.
And they can't just piss money up the wall. They don't need to necessarily see this quick return on it. And, you know.
No, there's the talk as well of you know, Comcast, who obviously did pay something like $1 billion for WWE's back catalogue at that point. Would they want to fully throw themselves in the hat, in the ring rather? They have a you know, different TV deals, the WWE, so Comcast would have had to sort of eventually wait to get more, and it would have all been sort of a bit complex. But the reality is, I think there is also the thing of, do we want to own a wrestling company? Is that, you know, our thing? And for the Saudis, it's just, this is a worldwide spectacle. You could see that obviously with the Crown Jewel shows, that's the bit where the door is opened.
Yeah.
The amount of money that they were willing to throw at Vince McMahon. What's really horrible about this is, obviously this deal had been, you know, mooted, was going on, and had been rumoured for a long time. At the time when Vince McMahon is booted out of WWE for his inappropriate conduct. And at some point in basically over the Christmas, Vince McMahon started making noises saying, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. There were some letters that went between him and the WWE board at the time. And he had said, look, the investigation into my conduct is over. So I'm coming back. Now, WWE got this independent report, but it's never been released. Nobody knows what was in it. They've just said it's concluded. So Vince McMahon said, well, I'm going to come back. The WWE Board of Directors said, we don't think that's a great idea, they said. And they also said, look, there's new information that could come out that we are aware of, they've basically said. They said, while government investigations into your conduct by the US Attorney's Office and SEC are still pending, it would not be prudent from a shareholder value perspective for him to return. This determination is based on a variety of factors, including non-public information the board has become aware of, and the risks to the company and its shareholders of placing a greater spotlight on these issues.
And let's make it clear, the shareholders at the point of sale to the Saudis at this point will not be the good guys, because they'll get all of the money. The reason why they're saying that about Vince McMahon is that their bottom line may be affected if Vince McMahon continues. If it is no longer a public company, if the shareholders get bought out by the Saudis, they're in filthy lucre and they fundamentally do not care. It is a capitalist decision. It is financial.
Completely.
It's not a moral judgment.
So Vince McMahon had actually responded to that letter and just said, the special committee of the board has concluded its investigation, and presumably all of its material findings have been publicly disclosed by the company. He was basically calling their bluff on that.
Yes.
So he was going, oh, sorry, you know some stuff?
Put it out there, put it out there, yeah. Take your product, take your own product.
Yeah, they knew by this point that they were absolutely fucked. He is the majority shareholder, so he had basically said, if I don't return as a director, I will not allow you to do any media deals. I will not allow any progression on the sale of the company. So he was basically saying, I will just stick my heels in the ground and everyone will suffer if you don't let me back in.
Yeah.
They let him back in. Stephanie McMahon resigns from her position as co-CEO, and Vince McMahon becomes director of the board in a unanimous vote. He'd also brought back a couple of directors with him and sacked some other ones. Yeah. So it was a clean sweep. And as soon as that happens, this deal is announced.
It's just basically Succession. Fuck off.
It is.
It's just a Succession. Fuck off.
And what he's done, which is sort of unbelievable, is it seems to all intents and purposes that the worst thing imaginable has happened is not just that it's been sold to the Saudis. There's every chance that it's been sold with Vince McMahon saying, and I want to return to be in charge of this. And for Vince McMahon, the company that he built, his company, his life, that means creative.
Yeah.
And I think what you've seen with Stephanie McMahon is I think she probably has made the decision that she's gone, I do not want to be associated with this because I will never, ever do anything else after it. They will always come back and they will say, you were there when your father came back after all these allegations and when you sold to the Saudis.
Do you not think there's also a part of her that sort of says, well, look, I'm not going to be in charge of a company under the Saudi regime. That's just not something that they will allow.
And I think her father is at the level of just going, this is mine and I will dispose of it how I like. I think his basic thing, knowing a little bit about his psychology, is he wants to say to everybody, you are nothing. You are no one. As someone said, this is almost like a wrestling storyline where he has cheated his daughter and son-in-law out of the legacy, which they basically had for 3 months or whatever it is, where they began to feel it might be theirs. It's a worrying sort of shift, really, because the bad guys have won.
The bad guys have won. And I think if anyone is naive enough to think that whoever is at the top of the tree or whoever's writing the checks at the top of it will not get involved, I would look no further than the situation that the Qataris had with FIFA over the World Cup. Now, soccer is seen as being a little bit of an untouchable kind of project when it comes to like the rules and regulations of the game, but it's not predetermined, and it's not, you're not writing contracts for players and stuff like that. You're writing contracts for actors and performers to a certain extent. And so I think where FIFA, who historically has always been the circus that comes into town, makes everyone bend over backwards for them on the promise of some promised riches somewhere down the line. They've swan into South Africa, they swan into Brazil, they swan into Russia, and they sort of go, look, guys, we're not paying any tax, we're going to make an ungodly amount of money, and then we're fucking off in a month's time. Now, with the Qataris, people, football teams made it clear that they're going to wear like a pro LGBTQ plus armband. That fell by the wayside when FIFA pressured them. Budweiser were obviously one of the main sponsors, and they were going to be selling booze at the grounds, and the Qataris
basically
said,
the day before.
Exactly. So if you think it might be different with MBS, it might be different with Mohammed bin Salman because it is primarily a sports watching thing, and I don't think they're looking for the return that they think they're going to get.
No.
With their ownership of Manchester City and Newcastle United, that is a longer term project, and they can't really do a lot with the actual fundamentals of the game. But they can touch quite considerably the product of WWE. And Vince McMahon, is he kind of willing to bend to that kind of pressure? I just don't know, to be honest. But you imagine that money talks in this situation.
I think the important thing to remember about Vince McMahon is he isn't 30. He is 75. He is going to be dead soon. And at that point, I mean, all bets are off. I mean, it's just... It's such a weird thing to have done. This family company that was taken public, that you are just now selling to the highest bidder. There is something funny about WWE, which is wrestling, pro wrestling. It has become international, but it is at heart a true slice of grubby Americana. And the very fact that has been sold just seems unsettling. There is something odd about that, because I just don't know who runs this. Do you know what I mean? And the reality is, when the Saudi government are funding these things, the one thing there is not a shortage of is money. And so there is a chance that you will have everybody poach from AEW who they want, because the money put in front of them will be so big. There's also going to be the chance that, a lot of the characters, the supernatural character, the gay performers, people might feel uncomfortable about having their checks come from a regime which effectively does not want people like them around.
Yeah.
I would be very, very surprised if we hear in the next 6 months of any wrestlers from the WWE leaving because they do not want the regime. I just don't think it will happen.
No.
And what you find is, we'll find ourselves just going, but of course we want to watch WrestleMania.
Yes, and we have to cover it, and we have to do this. And we had this exact same contortions over the Qatar World Cup. I have those genuine self contortions every time I want to watch Newcastle United on the telly. It's or in the stadium. It's something's being stolen from us.
Yeah.
And it was always awful, and it won't be the first. You know, we talk about Jamal Khashoggi and MBS's murder of a distant journalist. Like WWE have covered up murders in the past, reportedly. So it's like it's not like they were squeaky clean to start with.
Not at all.
You know, and it's kind of like it's weird.
Anyone else who bought it would have been clean. There would have been a way that you went, I prefer this to the old regime.
Yeah.
Somehow they've managed to do a deal where you go, if anything, this is slightly worse than the previous worst regime.
But it is. I think it was kind of stark when a lot of, and I took it kind of not personally, but like a lot of like Newcastle fans were criticised for supporting the takeover of Newcastle United. Like, Newcastle United have untold riches, and they are a much better football team for it. A good manager, great players, etc., etc. Now, we're in a situation where you can go three ways. You can either go thanks but no thanks. I'm going to support someone else.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. So I've been tested and I've failed. You could go the second route, and you could sort of support the team, but not the regime. Support the team, but not the way it's been done, and have a deep sense of robbery that you have had something stolen from you. Or you could go the third way, and you can be on the terraces on Barrack Road with an Arab headscarf on, going fucking MBS, negotiating prisoner releases with Putin and the basketball player. You can go that way as well, and it's. And the thing that disappointed me is a lot of like the criticism of the people in Newcastle who've had now to shout about for ages because of Mike Ashley and his terrible situation there for nigh on 15 years. It's been an awful place to watch football. It's been awful, atrocious stuff, and there's never been any hope. Now there's a bit of hope because of this investment, because of this change in management, because the ceiling has been increased height-wise. A lot of journalists really stuck the boot in on Newcastle fans for wanting something different. They really stuck the boot in for wanting something better and to have a bit of hope in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And those same journalists, I found it stark that when MBS and the Saudi Investment Fund, the PIF or whatever, invested in Twitter, for example, almost majority shareholders in Twitter, the journalists are still on Twitter. They're not talking about that. And so everything's shit.
Yes.
You are a hypocrite wherever you go in modern life, and if you climb high enough up the tree, somebody from a regime has invested in it, and it's only when things like the invasion of Ukraine you realise how much of that money is in everybody's pockets. I would say,
and I totally agree with you on that. And I think there's a funny thing about it's very easy to criticise this, and people will say you got to stop watching WWE. I've been watching WWE for 40 years. You know, I love what they do. There's a lot about it you don't love, but what you're seeing here
we made a career out of it on this.
and every show we do from now on, are we going to have to go a reminder? WWE is owned by a murderous regime.
I'll tell you now, Mark. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You kind of do because otherwise they win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise that's the sports washing project is complete. But I will say the more distance from takeover to success to a cool WrestleMania, or in Newcastle United's case, a League Cup win or something, like the further away it gets, the more you kind of like, pull bits off and sort of go, well, I can enjoy this and not worry necessarily as much. So it's distance and time and all that stuff. And they eventually win. They will always win because they've got billions of dollars in their pockets willing to splash on products like this.
They bought it because people like me want to see it, want to support it, and that's the hardest thing about it. It's it's very, very sad. It's sad for the people who work there, who have gone from working with someone who I think in Vince McMahon most found problematic to sort of going, I think we've entered a new era, and then suddenly you're further back than you ever were before. It's worth noting people like John Cena and Kevin Owens have always refused to go over for the Crown Jewel shows in Saudi Arabia. They haven't done that. And Sami Zayn, who is of Syrian descent, has not been allowed to appear on the shows. Now, it's not as if the new owners are going to say Sami Zayn has to be fired. That isn't hopefully going to happen.
No, but also you would probably say that Sami Zayn has been tested, and he sort of went, well, look, I'm under contract. I can't breach that contract. I legally can't breach that contract.
And who knows what he's going to do?
Yeah,
that's the reality. Thank God there is an alternative in AEW, and I think for AEW, this is a funny thing for them, because what they have at the moment is going, we have suddenly become the acceptable face of pro wrestling. For anyone who doesn't like...
Apart from Wrestle Me.
Fucking yes. For anyone who doesn't like their wrestling literally covered in blood, then you can come and see ours. And that will be good for them. But they are also now going up against a company not run by a billionaire, but run by an institution with unlimited money. And that is going to be a thing where if they decide, well, we're just going to absolutely destroy them by taking away everything they have, you know, by throwing money at people to a limit that they cannot say no, then we could weirdly be back fairly quickly to a single monopoly, because there is just, this is the WWE, this is the WWF in 1984, except it's now 18,000 times richer.
Yeah.
And everything in its path could be crushed.
And you've got to remember that, you know, on your /squared circle on Reddit and a couple of other places, you kind of have to remind yourself, and I certainly have to remind myself, that is a 1% bubble of fairly left-leaning, fairly intelligent, thoughtful, ethical people, I suppose, who are very uncomfortable with this. But at the end of the day, it's just a fucking TV program to 75% of the audience. So like they won't even know /care when's John Cena coming back for a bout.
Completely. And I think, you know, that's I suppose, you know, the people that I follow on Twitter from all over the world who talk about wrestling, everyone is horrified by this. And they're horrified because it seems to have been the worst possible outcome for people who wanted wrestling to be better. And that's a real shame. I should say, I mean, obviously this is so new and there are no details about it. But I should say, as you say, I don't think there's going to be a material change.
No.
We are going to see the same thing. We're going to have Triple H say, you know, I'm really pleased to be going forward, and he's going to be in creative. And there will still be good stuff and there will still be bad stuff. And actually, had it been run by, you know, a mum and pop store from Akron, Ohio, who won the Euro Millions or whatever it is, then, you know, I think it will be the same product. It's just that fucking hell, it's that behind the curtain of it, behind the curtain is a homophobic, despotic regime that effectively doesn't really like you.
Yeah.
You know, why couldn't it have been bought by France and Spain? You know,
I mean, I will say that the whole kind of, you know, capitalist patriarchy.
Yeah,
you'd probably say that pretty much everyone with a fair chunk of change in the pocket, whoever bought them,
I totally agree.
But they don't have the tools of state to literally murder people.
Well, exactly. And these people have, obviously, all the billionaires have murdered people. Let's make that clear. Every single one of them, I'm sure, has done it. If not to get to the top, in some kind of rural island hunting scenario where they've hunted humans.
Yeah.
We all know that.
The money plane.
Yeah.
More on that soon.
But I think there is that thing of at least they have the decency to go, no, I didn't.
Yes,
and
exactly,
that's the thing. When you have that thing about, you can always live at that level, can't you, of just going, oh, well, I don't know for sure, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
We can't do that in this scenario.
Yeah.
We cannot do it in this scenario. And there is something about, you know, you will be paying your ticket, and it's a bit like buying a ticket to go and see David Icke speak. You know, you can do it ironically, you can do it with awareness, but the money still ends up in his fucking pocket.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to happen here. And there will always be that thing where you hand over your money for a ticket to go and see WrestleMania, where you go, I wonder how much of this will be going into that new luxury prison.
Yeah.
You know?
Still money in the bank at the O2.
Yeah, it's going to be...
I'll tell you fucking what, I emailed the PR, I got a PR name and I got a PR number, and I emailed them and I said, fucking, we've been talking about WWE for fucking 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We've never, ever got free tickets for anything. We deserve tickets, and you don't reply. You don't reply. You need us more than we need you right now, buddies.
I would not want to be working in WWE's PR at the minute. That is just the worst. I mean, maybe she's going, do you know what? We've never heard this. Why don't we go and listen to the one they've just put out, and then we'll send them some tickets?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fucking too late, dickheads.
Fucking right. You've missed out. I don't want your blood-soaked tickets, unless they're, good ones.
And I would accept league final tickets if Newcastle get there.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? We're going to be fucking complicit in this. We're going to be complicit. And people will always go, oh, if you're so fucking right on, then why do you keep on... Because we can't do fucking New Japan all day. It's not as fun. Oh.
Everyone's in their 60s because they got to their 60s. You know why the most interesting characters are 60? Because they managed to get there. Everyone from the WWF and WWE, they died at 32. Where's Rick Rude? He's dead.
Oh, God. Do you know what? I went to bed last night and I saw the news the first thing I woke up this morning. And I went to bed last night and I just made some notes about the possibility that WWE looked like it was going to be sold. And I went to bed and I felt weird. I felt a little bit anxious and a bit, you know. And I woke up this morning and I was like, well, the fucking worst's happened. And then we get in here and we do a show where all we're doing is just going, all we've heard is it's being sold to the Saudis and we're upset and we're crying. I don't have a big point to make at the end of that.
No.
I'm just telling you how it feels. I genuinely am. I feel so sad about this. I really do.
It's a robbery. It's a robbery. And I've been through it. And I've been through it repeatedly with football. And we'll go through it again because there is unlimited amount of money. And, you know, maybe, just maybe, we can channel our anger and our ire into our brand new tag team, the Dubai guys. Because it's, you know, they're very much the indication of a wider problem. They are the Dubai guys.
There's something about that gimmick where when we first pitched that gimmick during WrestleMemus, that was a fun little gimmick, isn't it? And now it seems like a really loaded and political and oh god, it's a scream.
Oh,
mate. Oh well, there we are. Look, hey, that's
who's taking over AEW? Xi Jinping. Brilliant. Yeah.
That's Wrestle Me. Oh, fuck.